We're ready to go. Well, welcome everybody. Call the meeting to order. The Public Health and Safety Committee for February 26, 2024. We've got a quorum, so we're all set with that. And first, we called the meeting to order. Let's approve the minutes of the meetings January 11th and January 22nd. Any comments?
I just had a question. I didn't see them attached. Were they sent out?
They were.
Okay, maybe I just missed the email.
I can send another copy.
Okay, it's all right. I'll just abstain since I haven't read them.
Yeah, because Jackie sent them to me, and then I just forward them off to and then I'm pretty sure she sent them out because I actually.
Krista?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw she sent the agenda, but maybe
Yeah.
it's a little wonky in there with the attachments, so
Okay.
I'll look again.
Motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right. So the next order is to hear reports from committee members regarding interviews with various town officials on the issues of noise complaints. And go ahead, Lois, you want to start with what you
Sure.
have?
Yeah, sure. There are two things that I was working on. One is the town, and the information, I was directed to talk to the administrators for the first selectman, who said they get about 6 complaints a year. So we're not talking a huge amount, did not ask for a lot of stats on them, and basically they said they refer them to the appropriate committees. So I don't know if you've gotten some emails or what, I think they refer them to you if they have them electronically. If not, they tell people to contact whoever, either through Krista or you
Yeah.
directly, or someone, or Public Works directly, or whatever.
And that makes sense. I mean, I was contacted by 2 people. One about noise in his neighborhood, and then with lawn equipment, and then the other one was over by Royal School with the backing up of the dump trucks.
So, and I'm still trying to get a meeting with Kate, because the 2 parts were the information. The second one, while it may not be obvious that we want that, just talking about it helps, but there are 2 ways. One is that I believe that if there are fines, that the town would be doing that, and that was one of the things that came up in the discussion with the police was that the dog license fees, tickets go through the town, so that I'm not quite sure how it all works, but we should be really interested in finding out if there are any concerns about that, and if there are any other implications of what we're talking about from a town. Now, I'm not going near Public Works, because I know, we didn't touch on that, so you'll talk about that. But that was, so Kate's still in the, trying to still get an appointment with Kate to do
What
that.
Chief Anderson said to me in a previous meeting was that the point he strongly made was you want to have, if we're going to have a local ordinance, and with fines, you want the fines to be controlled by the town. If they become kind of something's going to be adjudicated in a state court, they would go to Stamford, and at that point they usually get kicked out. He said that they're just, he's never had good luck with that. He was almost tipping his hand that if you want to fight something and it's in the courts,
Just go for it.
you can get out of it. Yeah,
So
sure.
with the dog thing, I just know this, like when my dog would run away all the time, then the dog catcher would catch her, and they'd bring her to some place in Norwalk. I would have to go to the police department, pay like not insubstantial fine,
To the
get
police?
something to the police right there, and then take their ticket and get my dog. So I don't know if that's changed, but like I had to pay it, right, if I wanted my dog back. But in this case, the police really couldn't officiate over that, right? There's nothing compelling a person to go down there and pay.
Well,
If
Do
we
you
did
see
a
what I'm
noise
saying?
thing,
Like,
yeah.
it's like everyone's gonna go and pay to get the ticket in order to get
The
their
dog.
animal. But here, if you get a ticket for violating the noise ordinance,
Well, in
Well,
addition,
same as
like when you're talking
parking.
about dog licenses, like that's a proactive need. That's like a certain window of time annually where you go and see the town clerk, you pay, I think you still have to pay cash for that particular transaction, but that's sort of like, again, a proactive thing versus like a reactive or defensive thing where you're like, oh, I've been in trouble and now I've got to pay the town, whatever the fee's gonna, if there's a fee, right?
I think what you're talking about is what we want to get a feel for what Kate has to say about, how does it work and what happens and how do we handle
well,
it.
the blight
So
ordinance
that's
would probably
useful.
be the same kind of thing,
Yeah, but
these
there's no
fines wrapped up.
collateral, it's not like,
Collateral.
Yeah.
there's no collateral like there is with the dog.
Well, with the blight, isn't there a lien put on the property eventually?
Well, yes, there's a lien, and I guess you could do the same thing here, but that doesn't really,
Think
Cause
of one
problems when
instance
you
where
do
that isn't
it.
working.
you know, unless you're selling your house and they do a title search, but, yeah, this always comes back to enforcement,
Yeah.
and, you know, how people, you know, good people will do it, and noisy people who are not nice may not.
So the meeting with Kate Bush, the administrator, is outstanding, that's pending, but which selectmen did you speak with?
I didn't talk to.
Oh, you did, you did.
I spoke
Oh.
with John,
Okay.
and that was along with Frank, the two of us spoke with him.
Oh, right, okay.
And that was, gosh, it might have been back in December. And, you know, he was very, what's the word I want to say? He really was very cautious about, you know, coming up with a huge type of ordinance with banning equipment, you know, that kind of thing. He really thought that doing something on the lines of just having hours of operation would be a good starting point. And he even wanted to discuss just not even having an ordinance, just kind of put it out there with hours and you know, it's,
Like awareness,
right,
be a good neighbor.
Yeah,
exactly, you know.
PSA kind of thing.
So we are pairing up with the people from TGS&A, so Jess Cahill was part of the team that met, well, I mean, no, I take that back. Joe Michelli is part of the group that's gonna meet with, us for the administration, so that's to come. It's, you know, hopefully soon, but there are, you know, the more that, anyway. The other thing that I did, and unfortunately Rachel was ill, so she couldn't make it, was meet with Brent Hayes from the Police Commission, which was a very, very good meeting. And I just haven't, I think that was like a week ago Friday, was that? Rachel, you would know.
Yeah, well, yes, so,
Week ago from Friday, yeah. Anyway, Brett was very helpful. I just touched base with him because he's supposed to get us some information. And he said he hopes to have it by the end of this week. So that was good news. And we'll, when we get it, we'll share it and see. And on that committee, Jess Cahill was on
And
TGS.
specifically, what is the information he's providing?
Whatever kind of complaints.
Okay.
And whatever we can find out about the complaints. We don't know
Mhm.
whether it's just a noise complaint or, it's not gonna give us all complaints, but those that are targeted to noise.
Mhm.
Brent's been around a long time doing different kinds of, was he on this committee for a while?
I don't think so. I mean, he was on the RTM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, he had a really good stand back because he said, for example, that refuse isn't really a problem on Sundays because the dump is closed. So they don't collect a lot of garbage on Sunday. So,
Yeah.
and that was the kind of thing. And he also stressed the same thing that we've been hearing from other people is be good neighbors. You know, that this is the
Yeah.
kind of thing that we do. The one funny thing that came, which to me was funny, that came up is, so he started talking about that if there's a loud party or something, the police will come out if somebody complains after 11. So we said, okay, where did that come from? So we don't know where, we couldn't figure out where the 11 o'clock, that was one of the
No.
things that he was gonna see, you know. So is there a rule, or is it just a custom, or whatever else it is? Because the police will come out after 11 and ask you to tone it down.
That's when Tom Moore goes to sleep at night.
It's more like 9:30, but that's okay.
And also, Brent also went over the same thing we've talked about, is the money going to the state and not,
Mhm.
you know, make sure you set it up so that the money stays within town and the
Yeah.
things. The other thing he talked about is that if there's a fine, there's different ways the fine goes, and whether it's a step up or it's a flat fine. You know,
Mhm.
it's gonna be $100, or it's gonna be $100 on the first round and $150 on the second, and then 200 all the way out, or whatever.
Mhm.
So that was interesting because we haven't talked about fines, but
Yeah.
if it's gonna go in that direction, that's what we can do. But he also stressed that if you're gonna do an ordinance of any time, be really clear what you're talking about. And he, of course, was concerned about the issue of decibels, because it's really hard to, how do you test it, and what's the measurement, and how is it perceived? So, and then when you're talking about noise, decibels could come up. So it's sort of a general piece of information, which I thought was really
Well, I
helpful.
think, getting back to what the selectmen thought of from the beginning, is just having hours of operation. So, you know, you don't have to get involved in how loud something is, just, you know, pick a time, you know, you can't mow the yard before 7 o'clock or something like that. So you're not worried about how loud it is, it's the timing of it.
And we also talked about, you know, because we were talking in general, that separating professionals that do it versus homeowners that are doing things, and how the hours play out. He wasn't doing it as an expert, he was just doing it as having spent a lot of time, you know, hearing what goes on in the police department and other kinds of things, just sort of chatting, you know, just to bring it up to our attentions to think about.
I mean, that's a good point. If we suggest that, you know, what landscapers and contractors have to stop at, say, 6 o'clock at night, there's plenty of people that are just getting home at that time and it's late till 9 o'clock in July and they want to mow their yard at 8 o'clock. You know, so how you address that?
Well, I think some
Careful.
surveys with the landscapers will give us some information about the practicality of that, especially if we're gonna have a limit to when they can start in the morning as well,
Mhm.
too.
Well, my guess is they don't want to start too early because the ground's wet. You know, they you know,
They should.
as a layman, I don't want to mow my yard when the grass
I've
is
had my
wet.
landscaper mowing grass in the rain.
Okay,
If they got a route to do, and they got, you know, they're not gonna
Yeah.
get paid if they don't get it done.
yeah.
There are only certain days that
Yeah.
we can do it, yeah.
You may wait until
Yeah.
the dew comes off of the rose, but
Yeah.
Are
But
we,
the,
oh, sorry.
go ahead, go
Are
ahead.
we talking about finding homeowners or landscapers or?
Homeowners.
I believe homeowners, because they're the ones that are hiring the contractor. And we kind of have the same policy with false fire alarms. You know, it's, most likely they're set off by contractors that aren't, they're painting or whatever they're doing and they're not taping the,
Mhm.
so it's, you know, they ultimately cause it, but it's the homeowner's responsibility.
Got it.
So Rachel and I will follow up on the police as we go forward, and one of the things Brent said was that he was, we're interviewing our chief for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the interview for the chief, it should probably be on the record, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm sure that whatever they're doing, you know, will be really good, so he was pretty excited about what was going on.
they're supposed to make a decision, but we're not told.
What?
We're supposed to watch for white smoke coming out of the chimney at the police department
We know
to
when.
announce the new pope. The police commission meeting is in executive session, it's in the morning. I think.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay, so this is, we're right on it, we're right.
So are you gonna have a hidden camera in there? Or?
No, no hidden cameras, they're very obvious.
I'm teasing.
So by the time this
Yeah,
gets on
so-
board, we'll know, you know.
Go ahead.
they'll-
So can we switch to Tom?
So I
Yeah,
had
go ahead.
Sure,
with
go ahead.
Ed from Teal with Joe Michelli.
Good.
And so we had a meeting. We talked about the number of complaints. He said that they have very few complaints. Actually, snowplows seem to be more of a problem, but that's just actually the same one or two people that complain about the snowplows, and they think they've kind of worked around that.
Now, is that because someone's using a snowblower at,
No,
Three in the
this is the town.
Okay.
So, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, some people would just, you know.
yeah,
And then we talked about the garbage trucks and the challenge with the schools. You know, the interesting part is that the backup, it's more, I asked if it was more the dumpster dropping. He said, no, it's really more the truck backing up. But that's required, so that you
Yeah.
cannot get rid of the backup
Yeah.
noise.
yeah, you can't set hours for
You
that.
can't set hours for that, because that's just the way
Yeah.
it is. And the fact that they need to get in before the school starts, it's really not practical. And, because we didn't go down this, but because it's a school, that might be exempt even if we were to try to do something there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really seem to make any sense to, to approach that, because those trucks need to get in before the school starts.
Yeah.
There's just no practical way of delaying it.
Well, I think we as a committee and Frank's committee just have to be clear that we let the public know when you know, kind of say in essence that we can't really do anything about the garbage pickup at the schools because of the timing and stuff. They need to know that and know why.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
We can
most
still
people-
set some parameters, so it's not 4 AM, or, you know.
You know, I don't know, I mean, you know, I don't know how many, that garbage truck might be doing all the schools, so, if it's one contractor that's doing the schools, it'd be pretty hard then to
Yeah.
just do, okay, we'll start.
But I think this is all moot, because as you said, the Board of Selectmen, and I think JC made it pretty clear that the town is exempt from whatever regulation we come up with.
Yeah.
Well,
Whether
there may
it's
be
snow
some- there may be
plowing or
some-
schools.
There may
Yeah.
be some feedback on that.
We have to kind of massage that, I mean, as far as how
Oh,
we
okay,
present that,
good.
because I think that's,
Well, the long and short, I think really, the school, those trucks need to be there early. It's just, you can't have them mixing up with the people going, the kids going to school, so.
And that's really
there's nothing we
limited.
can do about the backup
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
Question, does the Board of Ed or the district contract with their refuse collection, or is it through Ed? Is it through our Department of Public Works?
That's a good question. I didn't really ask him that, so I got the impression it's probably with the Board of Ed. I don't
I think
think
that's right.
because he didn't lead me to believe, although I didn't ask the exact question.
I think he said at one point that they have to be aware of, I don't know if they have to approve who it is, but because they're bringing the refuse then to the
They're done.
dump,
What time's the dump open?
and they're probably,
8:45.
8:30, something.
No, that's 7
I
o'clock.
think
there's probably a
It's
different
separate.
structure for how it's accounted for, because it's, the town's garbage, not a private person, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So,
Did they have any stats? Does he have any stats?
He doesn't have any stats. no.
Okay.
It's so few complaints that,
Which kind of begs the question, or is this a solution in search of a problem?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and are we, I mean, doesn't seem to be of any proportion that requires an ordinance in my mind, but
I agree with Liz, yeah, I'm surprised. I expected to hear that there were more complaints.
yeah.
But the public hearing will certainly air that out.
yeah.
Because this is people who actually complained enough that they went through some channel.
that's
And I bet you there are a lot of people that just, curse the darkness and go, damn truck, why is that out there at
Yeah.
4 AM? And they never go to authorities.
But the question is, would they come out to a public hearing? But we find out.
I think they probably would, yes, properly motivated to let them know that the town is, RTM is looking at a noise ordinance. I think they might come out. We can certainly publicize
Well,
that
we'll
opportunity.
No, we'll publicize and we'll also make it clear, because Frank and I talked about, we want to really have something, almost a handout of what
Right.
we're working on, not
Like a
just,
dummy
not that
list.
we're having this from the beginning, in the sense that we're just
Yeah.
getting shotgunned with all kinds of different crazy ideas. Not crazy, but just, impractical ideas.
Could we do something in the interim of saying, like, we're looking at all possibilities, we've heard that there are some complaints. In the meantime, here are some thoughts on being a good neighbor. Here are our recommendations. We know that loud parties receive a police response after 11 o'clock.
Well, what would you suggest, we're talking about like a press release?
Yeah,
I mean, how do
Well, they
we?
could go out of the selectmen's, the
Mhm.
news report that John puts out once in
Mhm.
a couple of weeks.
I think that all the quality of life issues could be bundled into, good neighbor,
Mhm.
or just welcome to town.
communications. Noise, litter, dogs, beaches, all that kind of stuff, like reiterating the obvious
Yeah.
to many of us, but maybe not so obvious to people who are new to town.
The first selectman does a wonderful job with his face-to-camera videos. Maybe he could be persuaded that this would be a topic to address the town with. I think it's the sort of thing that could come from him or from Board of Selectmen, as opposed to just our committee.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
we
we
started-
didn't start it, we were asked to do it.
No, I mean, the
Right.
good, be a good neighbor idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I will be glad to make overtures to the first selectman on that.
Okay.
idea,
We'd
if
also
you would
like to see it in that newsletter that they put. that he
Yeah,
puts
Yeah.
out.
well, I think he does a video one, and then Marley does a newsletter one as well, too.
Now you got me thinking of the State Farm,
Yeah, exactly.
Like a good
Neighbor.
neighbor.
Good on. Schwarzenegger. But,
Well-
I mean, we could, it could be published in the local paper. It could just be a little, something,
yeah, well, just
a statement.
on the same theme, on February 15th, I met with David Knopf along with Joe Michelli. We had a meeting with him, and he kind of carried that same theme, that he doesn't really believe an ordinance is the way to go. He just thinks everyone should be good neighbors. He's had very few complaints. They don't really keep track of them. He said some of his complaints have been about air conditioning compressors, and also pool filters that are often built up.
Run all night,
They
yeah.
they might be on the back end of your property, but they're closer to the neighbor's property. And, you know, we both agreed, I mean, you know, how you can't just shut those off for periods of time. You know, they need to run when they run. So, but he, you know, he kind of laughed. He says that, you know, he does his own, or he lives on Long Island, but he mows his own yard. And he was kind of saying he would, you know, in good conscience, he would never be mowing his yard on a Saturday afternoon if the neighbors are having a party. You know, and that just gets back to the good neighbor thing. So, but he didn't have hard numbers either. He said they don't, you know, he was just giving kind of anecdotally how he felt. There's been some complaints. He couldn't tell where they were from, if it was the same person, multiple different people.
So how would these public forums be established? I mean, would it be kind of like what we did with the plastic bags? We schedule some nights and people would come in and tell their stories? Or?
Yeah, I think we'd, you know, start with one, and if it gets to be 11 o'clock and we haven't, everyone who wants to speak hasn't spoken, but I think probably having one night, you know, starting at 8 o'clock and let everybody speak, cut it off, you know, make it 5 minutes, whatever the kind of custom is for public speaking.
And I think one of the things that you've mentioned in the past is you want to be clear that we're not talking whether gas or electric,
Yeah,
you know, whatever the leaf blowers.
yeah, so I mean, if that kind of comes up,
We're
that,
talking noise, we're not talking technology.
right, we're
Because
really
it could be a
talking.
drone,
Yeah.
it could be a loud, maybe somebody wants to run a, you know, his snowblower generator in the front yard. You know, I think when we start focusing on technology, that's when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Gas powered, electric,
You know,
et cetera. But I think Mac was saying that before we get to any kind of a public hearing, we have to have some sort of proposal to talk around.
mhm.
We have to come up with something that it's a discussion point. And it's just, you know, it's not chisel and granite, we want feedback on this, should we change the times, should we change what the parameters are that we're requesting? But so that's what we have to do first before we.
Well, the question,
Yeah,
I
those
think you
are
raised it before, is whether we need an ordinance or something
Well-
less than an ordinance that encourages people to know what
We
to
could,
expect.
you know, come up with what we think are reasonable hours of operation, and just ask everyone to abide by it.
So I'm looking here, Wilton did this in 2012. They had, instead of an ordinance, they did like a good neighbor policy. So I have to read more, but it would be interesting to see how that came out. I don't even know if they're one of the towns now that is doing one of the noise ordinances.
I've heard a lot more about Westport and Greenwich,
Yeah.
but we can look into it. I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, you know, Greenwich has had a lot of dissension between the health department.
They resigned or
They-
something
yeah, they-
rather than have to
Yeah,
enforce
they-
it.
Yeah, and that was David Knopf, well, one, he's retiring, but he also said that, you know, he has no interest in having anything, you know.
Resembling that.
Resembling that, where the health department is the enforcer.
The bad guy,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Well, we just have people to do that too.
right,
That's
right,
crazy.
right.
So is that everyone we talked to in town hall and?
So far,
Positions.
yes, and we, what we need to do is, we still need to, you know, actually talk to someone, a waste hauling firm.
Can I volunteer to do landscapers,
Sure.
plural? I'll interview like 3 or 4.
I'm not
No,
so
sounds
sure,
good.
what would you get out of the haulers?
Well, just maybe there's some reasoning that we haven't thought of, why they're coming so early
In the morning?
in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really the schools, right? So it's nothing
Right,
other than
but-
that.
Well, it's more than the
I heard
schools.
one the other day, because I woke up, it woke me up, and I
The problem-
looked, it was
The
before
problem
6.
is the backup, and that, there's nothing you can do about that.
Well,
So
but
it's
maybe
just
they
a-
don't come here that early. Maybe they, you know, they don't go to the houses in the neighborhood until 7:30 in the morning.
I think we should get some hard information about the hours that they operate, where they tip. I mean, if they're tipping, if they're dumping their loads at the Darien dump,
yeah,
they don't want to be out at 5 o'clock in the morning because the dump's not open until 8:45 or so.
I think Tom said 7:45.
But they may take it someplace
7
else,
o'clock.
or they may then go to another place, start loading up there. And it may be that they come to us first because no one has said no.
My best guess is if they're picking up Darien product, from the schools, they're gonna go to the Darien dump. They're not gonna take it,
Yeah, they wouldn't want to
Not at
pay,
6 AM.
well, they wouldn't want to pay to tip it in Stamford, which they would have to do if it wasn't.
And, as a layman, I just don't know, I mean, if they pick up at the high school, are they filling their whole truck with one load, or is it just getting started? You don't know.
That's where you gotta talk to the waste haulers.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the website now, it is 7 AM that the refuse center opens.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's a hard, was it 2:45 it closes?
2:45.
We know those.
Yeah,
Those of us who actually use the dump, like,
Well, I was
oh, that's the time.
yeah, I was there Saturday, it's 2:40.
Are there any noise generators that we haven't thought of other than
Well,
trucks, cars, and landscaping and?
construction workers that are, cutting lumber, cutting, what do you wanna call it?
Truck time.
Well,
Structure.
construction
Tiles,
sites.
noise,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and homeowners do that too.
Tree surgeons.
Oh,
We have
yeah.
to be really, really careful because, you might have a homeowner that decides he wants to cut his lumber at 8:30 at night. Well, because it's still light out.
You also have barking dogs. People who let them out too early or let them out late at night to do their business, and there's all kinds of we've got roosters in my neighborhood, but that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
So they're,
I would think the Chip, the
Animal control officer.
animal control officer would have numbers on that, because I'm sure those go right to him.
on dogs that,
Yeah.
that cause too much noise.
Do we want to follow up with that, to ask?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, we should-
Yeah.
Do you want me to do that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I'll
but I
do
mean,
that.
but
Just got that.
That's an animal control person?
I've got
I'll give you his number.
somehow I think we can talk to humans about ours, but, when a dog's gotta be outside, it's, I mean, what do you?
Somebody, it's noise, that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I think maybe we get rid of all the deer, because that's what sets off the dogs in the neighborhood, the deer. I mean, they're almost
Okay.
they're like pets.
And we're in open gun season, right?
Oh,
I'm teasing.
But one of the interesting things I found out on noise, which you can't do anything about, is that, I guess it's called skeet shooting. One of,
do anything about that?
well, I don't know, I mean,
Well,
one
they
of the
shoot
country
at
club
Weed-
does.
at
Well,
Weed
that's
burn.
up at Weeburn.
And they've got special
'Cause-
hours.
So Brent talked about that, and I went, oh, okay. And then I was out cross-country skiing that Saturday, and you could hear it reverberating all over. I was at Highland Farm, and you could just hear it reverberating all
Yeah.
over.
You can cross-country ski up there?
Yeah, Highland Farm, it's very flat, so if
Yeah.
you want, if you really want flat, it's
Oh, that's good to
fabulous.
know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time, Jim?
Oh, we're doing
Good, okay.
I can email around Wilton's noise ordinance, which is in their town code, as well as an article from 2012 when they were considering it, wherein they do mention leaf blowers, barking dogs. I don't know what the outcome was because I can't, but I'll send it along.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for.
So, Jim, do you have landscapers you want, because
I've
the
got one.
guy I
thought-
work with,
Yeah.
he's a buddy of mine, but he also does, leaf pickup in the fall. I could run it by him.
You could ask if you want to, that'd be
Sure,
great.
okay.
I'm just gonna ask a few different people to get a few names of some landscapers that work in Darien and get a flavor of what the challenges are too.
Maybe we could ask the school board who if it has a trash hauler, that, it contracts with who it is. And then,
Yeah.
speak to them about what their
Do you-
hours
do
are.
you-
I could do that.
Okay.
And ask them, because you don't think it's,
I think that, I'm good.
you're good, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, I will ask and see what I
Okay.
can get
Maybe
anywhere.
when you're doing that, maybe you can find out if they have any complaints and, any info on.
People call the school board about.
Well,
those complaints,
I don't
okay.
know who, I think they have an operations person,
Okay,
so that might be a
Yeah.
good person to try and,
Well,
where
I
it
know
goes.
Now I'm blanking her last name, Sarah, she used to be on the RTM, on our committee, she's on the school board.
Sarah Parent.
Yes.
okay,
Kevin Monrette is the head of facilities for the public
okay.
schools.
So he would probably
Yeah.
know if, okay. Thank you.
And they must be external callers, because we don't own.
Right, so he must, and I presume like he would know what times generally they come and why. Okay.
Okay.
Do we know approximately what the hours are that Baywater is maintaining on their
For construction.
site?
Construction, I don't know what they are.
Do you want me to find out?
Sure.
Okay,
That would
Call
be-
our good friend David.
I will.
They finished their pile driving last week, I think,
That was
so he says.
loud.
All over town, all over town, you can hear that thing going
I
in.
think it, did it?
Oh, yeah. Well, it didn't bother me, but I knew what it was.
Was in the middle of the day, right?
Another example, I believe the police department has a firing range. I think I don't
Oh,
know,
yeah,
it
it's
used to
in the
be
building.
outside.
Yeah, it's inside.
Downstairs. It's in the-
Yeah.
It's inside now.
Yeah.
So who's firing off the gunshots that I hear at
We-
night?
we-
Rayburn, that's the.
Oh, at
sketchy-
night?
Yeah.
Oh, at
It's
night.
not
night.
at night.
Well, not at night,
No,
no.
this is at night, yeah.
You know, I don't know.
The police department range is indoors now, right?
Yeah.
Do you want, I'll ask Brent and see. if
Ask
there's
him,
any-
yeah,
Yeah.
just ask him.
Night shift.
I don't know how you could hear it, but, you know,
In my neighborhood, I can hear it.
you
It's
know.
deer hunters.
At night, great. Great. Kids get in from the house here.
Yeah, right.
And Brent, if something's going on, he might have an idea who it was, because he's sensitive to all that stuff,
Yeah.
so I will ask.
I hear it fairly regularly, and it's not just the occasion, it's not like cars on 985 exchanging shots
No,
at
they'd
each
be,
other.
they'd be probably shooting indoors, shooting rifles and also handguns.
It does, I mean, I've heard them, I live on Fitch Avenue and I've heard them too, and, it's not, doesn't sound regular enough to be practice,
Hmm,
I don't know, but it happens frequently enough.
okay.
Mhm.
If you don't mind letting us know when it happens, I can trace it back.
I will let you know.
We'll note next time it happens.
What's funny, if you can hear, I would think that there'd be tons of noise insulation, because you know, if you're in that building, you wouldn't want to hear it.
I'm at least a mile from police headquarters, so
You know,
I don't think it must, if it's not it can't be the indoor range,
No.
I don't think.
Well, Brent seemed to be really sensitive about those kinds of sounds,
Mhm.
so he may know what it is.
Okay.
That was my sense of, he was pretty
But I think
aware
one-
of
One
that
of the
issue.
things about the noise is it has to be consistent, right? I mean, if it's every now and then, we can't have something that, the pile driver is driving at 10 o'clock in
Right.
the afternoon, or, morning, because
Right.
he's building the building. I mean,
yeah, it's not,
I mean,
every,
it's gotta be reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, some people just go off the wall with this stuff. and
right.
I think that's why I keep it simple, set hours, that are reasonable hours.
Yeah, I mean, if that project was doing that at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, I think
Right.
we'd all say that's wrong.
Right.
You know, because they have all these bright lights, they
I
could be
mean,
doing it, and they could, the summer, they could be
We
doing it.
know Metro North, I heard Metro North when they were working on the New Canaan line, right? They're doing that at night. Now, we get complain because they work, what else? They got.
But do it on 95 at night, too.
Yeah, they have to do the work.
Yeah,
So, it's, as long as it's not something that's constant, because that's where it becomes a problem, right? Where it's constantly a problem.
Mhm.
But every now and then. That's why I think you set the hours, that's reasonable hours, and that's easy to kind of police.
mhm.
Well, speaking of Metro North, the New Canaan branch is notorious for having to fire its horns as it comes to every grade crossing. And I was going to say SWRPA, WestCog, the Western Council of Governments, has undertaken a consultant to look at solutions to reducing noise at the grade crossings. So that study is underway. But I would imagine if we ask people to come out and say, what bothers you about noise, we will hear people complaining about the trains on Metro North and the New Canaan branch.
Absolutely. It's
Well,
a
that-
thing when people buy houses, if they want to know how far they are from those crossings, because they don't want to hear it. They
Yeah.
won't buy them.
Yeah,
Well,
It's good. You know.
But boy, sound is different. I mean, there are days when I'm outside and it sounds like the Groton Heights train station is right on top of me. you know, just the noise of the trains
Yeah,
go
it's the
by.
wind.
It's the
Well,
wind,
Well, it's
yeah.
that, there's when there are no leaves.
Or 95, and then other times you don't hear it all because the wind's blowing it the other way.
I could hear PA announcements at the Roden Heights train station on a quiet morning.
What?
And I'm about, maybe a quarter to a half mile from the train station.
Now, see how good that was when you were commuting into the city?
But I don't care that the 5:44 a.m. train is going to be 5 minutes late. Please. That's why we have texts.
But I think, you know, getting back to the idea of the, you know, the be a good neighbor idea, I think that if people just knew, if people knew that it's not just a conductor who's blowing the horn because he wants to, but because there's actually a rule that he has to, I think people would be more reasonable. I know I am more reasonable if I understand why I'm being asked to do something. So if there was, maybe even at the public hearing, just like some facts about sounds around town.
Yeah,
Well,
I like that.
it's like,
Well, Wilton covers
Education.
in other environmental standards under their zoning regulations, odors, gases and fumes, toxic or noxious matter, radiation, electromagnetic interference, fire and explosive hazard, heat, noise, water pollution, and vibrations. So,
well, Jackie, to
Really?
your point, we were all getting
All
our
there.
driver's license, we had to watch those terrible movies with, you know, carnage and stuff, and, you know, I do see a couple pictures of a accident scene with a train. It's, you know,
Yeah.
there's a reason why they want it loud.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know,
Rachel, do you want to talk to Wilton and find out how they enforce vibration and radiation?
you know, I would actually,
Regulations?
I'm quite interested in
If
what
we
that
can't
really,
define what noise is, how are they out there with radiometers or?
I couldn't say, I can only say, does
Seismometers?
that have something to do with like, if you're like building you're jackhammering something, or you're near a train, or the transporting,
Blasting bedrock.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess they're very thoughtful with this approach. It seems all encompassing. But yeah, I can ask them.
well, what-
So I was just gonna say, a couple of years ago, I was doing something and I ended up calling a whole bunch of towns. And the town clerks were so helpful. I mean, they really give incredible insight into why it is and what it is and what it really is. It wasn't this, it wasn't noise. But I enjoyed it because I learned so much about what we were trying to do
Yeah.
because of talking to these people. And they were delighted to help, so.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I'm happy to give them a buzz. It's interesting, that's for sure.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure when our next meeting's scheduled. It'd be the next RTM meeting. So maybe we should have another one of these meetings, a follow-up sooner rather than waiting for that, because it could be a month from now. So I'll work on that and get out. So, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
In favor? Okay. All right, great, thank you.
FYI,
Yeah.
Jack is, no, Frank's gonna call. He started
Oh,
asking
okay.
questions. I said, don't ask me.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
Frank. I don't
Yeah.
I feel like, was there ever a noise ordinance, like 10, in 27, in the teens, 20 teens?
Oh, we tried to have one and RTM voted it down,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
you know,
Big time.
but it was also, it was too heavy-handed. It had decibels and, I mean, there are all these things that, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think you're quoted at talking about.